Hi, everyone. This is the Brad Free Report for January 11th. We're going to jump right into it with the most impressive performance last week at Santa Anita. You know who it was. It was a 3-year-old filly making her first start of 2019. Bellafina turned the Santa Ynez Stakes into an absolute romp. This is the filly who finished fourth in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and she came back with a vengeance. That's Bellafina with the Circle, Flavian Prada board, and she absolutely crushed this field. 22-3, 45, and she ran down to the wire. 7 furlongs in 122. She earned a 95 Beyer speed figure. That's the top dirt figure by a member of her crop. So Bellafina has reestablished herself as the top 3-year-old filly in California and among the top 3-year-old fillies in the country. Now, every winter and spring, we're conditioned to talk about Derby and Oaks. In the case of Bellafina, I think talking about the Kentucky Oaks might be a little bit premature because the Santa Ynez is not always a segue to success at a mile and 1/8. The Santa Ynez is a 7-furlong sprint, won last year by Midnight Bisou. Her maximum win distance to this stage of her career, only a mile and the 16th. 2 years ago, it was Unique Bella. Maximum win distance, mile and the 16th. And in 2012, Renee's Got Zip turned the Santa Ynez into a romp. She turned out to be a top sprinter. Her maximum win distance, 6.5 furlongs. My point is this. Although we know that Bellafina will be pointing toward the Santa Anita Oaks, beyond that, the decision has yet to be determined. After talking to trainer Simon Callahan early this week, I got the impression that the Kentucky Oaks is not necessarily a priority. I think more like the Acorn and or Test this summer in New York, probably where Bellafina will end up showing up. Now, if she wins the Santa Anita Oaks in a romp, all bets are off and she could go into the Kentucky Oaks. But if I had to gamble today, I'd say that Bellafina is going to be a top one-turn filly for most of this year. She runs February 9th, 1 mile in the Las Virgenes. She'll train into the April 9th Santa Anita Oaks, and then we'll find out beyond Santa Anita Oaks which direction Callahan and owner Kaleem Shaw goes. I think she's a top sprinter, and I think that's probably where the focus will lie. Okay, regarding distance, a lot of people had a legitimate question regarding Next Shares going into the Grade 2 mile and 1/8 San Gabriel Stakes last week. Now, Next Shares was a miler, trying a mile and 1/8. I think it was a valid question. Let's take a look and see what Next Shares did, stretching out to a mile and 1/8. That's him on the far outside, and he unleashed an extended rally-wide move on the far turn. It's tough to win a grass route, losing ground through the far turn, but Next Shares got up close home. He nailed Cleopatra's Strike right on the wire. Now, just because Next Shares won this race does not mean that that was a bad question. It wasn't bad to doubt whether or not Next Shares could run that far. He was the favorite, for crying out loud, but this was a better-than-looked effort. He did answer the question whether he could go a mile and 1/8, and watch out for Next Shares when he shows up in the Pegasus turf. This was a better-than-looked effort, better-than-looked win, considering his ground loss. Okay, we talked a little bit about Bellafina. Let's talk a little bit about the 2-year-olds turning 3. Bellafina, who had finished 4th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Well, what about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies? Was it a good race, and what is the status of these 2-year-old fillies from last year who are now turning 3 or have turned 3? Well, let's take a look at the top 4 finishers. Jaywalk, she actually had her first breeze on Friday morning down in Florida. She won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies in a romp. She's a good filly. She is on her way back. Her first breeze was Friday. Restless Rider came back and finished a disappointing 2nd in a Grade 2. Vibrance was off the board in a Grade 1. Bellafina did come back and validate the form of the Breeders' Cup. She's the only one who has won out of that race. The 5 through 7 finishers have yet to race. The 8th through 10th came back, and they all finished off the board. So there's still a question how strong the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies field was. Bellafina certainly added to the positive opinion of that. As far as the Colts go, well, I think we're finding out already that the Breeders' Cup Juvenile has turned out to be a very strong race. Let's look at the top 7 finishers. Already 3 next start stakes wins. Signalman won. He won the Sham last and Mine won it after. Okay. Leader of the Penn winner, he had his first 3 furlong workout on Wednesday. Trainer Bob Baffert gearing up the early favorite for the Kentucky Derby for a 3-year-old campaign. Nick's Go, he disappointed. Runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, disappointed next time out, expected to make his next start at Tampa. Mr. Money will return next weekend at Fairgrounds. I kind of like this guy. He's still eligible to the first allowance condition, but he finished 4th in the Breeders' Cup. He will take on Tight 10 and others in the Lecomte next week. So it's an annual winter debate. Are last year's 2-year-olds as good this year at 3? And already we're seeing signs that those colts who ran in the Juvenile, that was a pretty strong race. Okay, let's look forward and talk about some veterans. And let's talk about a couple of stakes races that will be run this weekend at Gulfstream Park and Turf Paradise. And they have the same common theme. The first one we'll look at is the Grade 3 Tropical Turf. And all discussions with regards to the Tropical Turf must begin with the 4-5 favorite, Heart to Heart. He's 8 years old. He's the speed of the field, taking a drop-in class, and he could be tough to beat. However, it's been 7 months since his last good race. Trainer Brian Lynch has lost with his last 10 favorites. If Heart to Heart shows up, he will win the Tropical Turf Stakes. I am intrigued by the horse to his inside. His name is Mr. Freeze, and he's 15-1. He's the son of To Honor and Serve, not exactly a top grass sire, but on the bottom side of Mr. Freeze's pedigree, he has 3 stakes-winning siblings, turf stakes-winning siblings, Dilemma, Heavenly Ransom, and Capitano. So Mr. Freeze, who's making an ambitious start to his 2019 campaign, I look for him to outrun his odds. If not win outright, at least make it respectable. So how about a win bet at 15-1 on Mr. Freeze and a one-way exacta, Heart to Heart over Mr. Freeze. Okay, a similar situation emerges in the Turf Paradise Stakes race on Saturday. It's the $75,000 Cotton Fitzsimmons Stakes handicap. And the old-timer Blackjack Cat, he's not that old. He's only 6. But since running 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile in 2017, his next 4 starts, very disappointing. He has been freshened. He's the class of the field, shipping in from Southern California for trainer Mark Glatt. This colt, this gelding, is actually training very well, but I wonder if he's still the same horse. If he is, he will win this race, Blackjack Cat. I like a long shot in here. He's going dirt to turf. 4 of the last 9 Fitzsimmons mile winners were going dirt to turf, and this horse's name is Gato Guapo. He won 2.5 weeks ago by 11 lengths. He's trained by Robertino Diodoro. Diodoro's win percentage this winter at Turf Paradise, 45%. If Blackjack Cat has in fact lost a step at age 6, I look for Gato Guapo to possibly spring an upset. Okay, time for thumbs up and thumbs down. Thumbs up, this one's easy. It had to be Bellafina. She was dazzling last week in the Santa Ynez, 95 buyer, highest dirt figure of her division. Thumbs down, look, this was a botched best bet by yours truly. Best bet on the card should be the most probable winner, a rock solid, can't miss, surprised if they lose. I made Coliseum best bet last weekend off of a maiden win. Now, his gate issues were well documented. He was facing winners, running long in a race loaded with speed. I don't mind picking Coliseum on top, but to make him best bet, thumbs down indeed. Well, we have a lot to look forward to this weekend. Some long shots at Gulfstream Park and at Turf Paradise as the 2-year-olds turn 3. A lot to look forward to this winter. I'm Brad Free. Talk to you next time.